Ever notice how some people get treated with love and respect while others constantly get walked on, dismissed, and taken advantage of? Well, it's not luck, and it's not excluded for a special group of people. It's because of your boundaries. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And to keep it real, if you don't set boundaries, people will assume you don't have any. Because people who struggle to say no are 3 times more likely to suffer from burnout, resentment, and even depression. But the good news is, you can change that. And surprisingly, it's easier than you may think. Hi, my name is Kristi. I'm a nurse practitioner, health coach, and trauma survivor. This is Trauma Free, where I help you change your mind and change your life, just like I did. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to protect your peace, raise your self-worth, and stop teaching people how to mistreat you. So let's get into it. Sadly, most people don't even realize this, but the majority of people don't treat you based on your loving heart, your intentions, or your goodness. They treat you based on what you tolerate from them. Think about a toddler screaming for candy at a grocery store. If throwing a fit gets them what they want once, then what happens the next time? They'll do it again and again because it worked before. And adults, we're no different. We're constantly looking for other people's limits to figure out how we can test them. Psychology reveals that human behavior is predictably selfish until it's met with resistance. And if you don't provide that pushback, if you don't teach people how to treat you, they'll make it up for themselves, and it's usually not in your favor. So let me break this down further, so you will know the exact tactics that manipulators are using to test your boundaries, and the reasons you've probably let them. The first one is the foot in the door technique. And it basically means if someone can get you to agree to something small, they've got you right where they want you. And from there, they can ease in with much bigger requests. This is a slow progression of decreasing your boundaries over time. An example would be your boss says, "Can you stay 10 minutes late?" And you say yes because it feels small, but 2 weeks later, you're staying 2 hours for free. The problem isn't the 10 minutes, it's the pattern it creates, because patterns end up becoming expectations. The second approach is the door in the face technique. This one is very conniving because you often don't recognize it. If someone asks you for something extreme and you say no, they'll often follow up with a smaller request, and your brain wants to say yes, to compromise. An example of this would be a friend asked you to borrow $500 and you're like, "I can't do that. I don't have that kind of money to give you." Then they go, "Okay, how about $50 then?" Which is what they really wanted. Now you feel bad because you want to help them, so your guilt pushes you to give in. But this is a form of psychological manipulation, but it doesn't feel like it, and that's what makes it so effective. The third reason is if you have low self-worth, you'll be more prone to being exploited. Because people with low self-esteem are 62% more likely to attract boundary pushers and stay in relationships where they're disrespected or dismissed, and that includes family members, romantic and professional relationships. Because when you don't feel worthy of love, you tolerate BS and try to make it work. And when you fear rejection, you'll settle for any attention, even if it hurts you. If you grew up in a home where love was inconsistent or conditional, your nervous system learned that walking on eggshells was safer than walking away. And this is caused by trauma and programming, and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change and heal from the past. And the fourth reason is you get caught in the nice person trap. You'll know this is you if you're always understanding, always giving the benefit of the doubt. You hate conflict, and you apologize even when it's not your fault. Does that sound familiar? That's not kindness, because when you put someone else's needs above yours for the sake of peacekeeping, you're basically abandoning yourself. When you over-apologize, over-explain, or avoid confrontation at all costs, people subconsciously perceive you as someone who is weak. Not everyone will exploit that, but manipulative people, they will. If you always say yes, they'll keep asking for more because your silence becomes permission, your flexibility becomes an expectation, and your kindness gets used against you for their benefit. This isn't about blame, this is about awareness. You're not responsible for the way people treat you, but you are responsible for what you accept, what you tolerate, and what you continue to entertain. When you don't set boundaries, people don't see you as easygoing. They see you as a door that's already open. And guess what people do with open doors? They walk right through them. Basically, you teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. Let's move into what weak boundaries actually look like so you can start spotting them and stopping them. Unfortunately, most of us were never taught how to protect our peace, but we were taught how to be nice, how to share with others, even when something within us was saying no. And if you grew up in a home where saying no led to guilt, punishment, or abandonment, boundaries didn't just feel unsafe, they felt like a threat. So if your boundaries are weak, know that this has been caused by conditioning. But now you can change that by strengthening them. Let's break down 5 powerful signs that your boundaries need some tightening up. Number 1, you say yes when you want to say no. We've all been there. Your coworker asks you for help again. Your friend wants to vent for the 5th time this week. Your cousin needs a ride to the airport at 6 a.m. And you say yes, not because you want to, but because you don't want to deal with the guilt. It has been shown that 78% of people admit to saying yes to things they later resent. That means the majority of us are walking around quietly upset because we're afraid of what might happen if we choose ourselves. But here's what I've learned. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something else that you want to do and to your well-being. Number 2, you feel responsible for other people's emotions because when someone's upset, you feel like it's your job to fix it. You avoid saying how you really feel and you don't want to hurt their feelings. So you over-explain, over-apologize, and walk on eggshells just to keep the peace. Because people pleasers often suppress their own needs to avoid discomfort or tension in their relationships. But you must know that you are not responsible for how someone reacts to your truth. You're responsible for being clear, honest, and respectful. But their emotions, that's theirs to deal with, not yours. Number 3, you fear rejection more than disrespect. If you've ever tolerated mistreatment just to keep someone around, if you've ever stayed silent while being disrespected because you were scared they would leave, it's not because you're weak. You've been wired to be that way. Attachment theory shows that people with anxious attachment styles will often endure poor treatment to avoid abandonment because to the nervous system, rejection equals danger. Your brain sees not being accepted the same way it sees physical pain. But being alone isn't the worst thing. But being mistreated while pretending you're okay, it is. Number 4, you're always the understanding one. Empathy is a beautiful trait, and I understand because I'm an empath. But when it's unbalanced, it becomes a trap. If you constantly make excuses for people's bad behavior, if you're always giving second, third, even 10 chances, and if you find yourself saying they didn't mean it, you're ignoring red flags. And be careful, because people who are overly empathetic are 4 times more likely to be targeted by manipulators because they seek out victims who won't give them any pushback. Number 5, you're exhausted from overgiving. Now let's talk about emotional burnout. You're the one everyone turns to. You check in on other people. You offer your support. You give until there's nothing left to give. And you still feel guilty when you say no. But something you should be aware of is lack of boundary is one of the top predictors of emotional exhaustion. Burnout isn't just about overwork. It's about overgiving and overextending yourself for other people who would never do the same for you. Does any of this sound relatable? Well, you can rewire the way you respond by teaching your nervous system that no is safe, and you can rebuild your life with relationships that feel mutual and not manipulative. Now, let's talk about how to set boundaries that command respect and protect your peace. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you accept. Boundaries aren't about being mean or cold. They're about being clear, direct, and honest. And most importantly, protecting your peace. People will treat you how you allow them to. And if you don't set the standard, they'll set it for you. Good for you, boundaries are teachable. They're not just emotional, they're neurological. And every time you assert one, your brain literally rewires itself to value your self worth more. Let me show you exactly how to start setting healthier boundaries. Step 1, the if then rule. This is a powerful tool borrowed from behavioral science. If X happens, then I'll do Y. It works because it pre-programs your nervous system to respond instead of react. It takes the guesswork out of boundary enforcement. For example, if my friend cancels last minute again, then I'll stop initiating plans with them. If my partner raises their voice, then I'll walk away from the conversation. You're not waiting for them to change. You're deciding how you will respond. The brain thrives on pattern and prediction, so setting if-then rules gives your brain a safety script that removes emotional hesitation in that moment. Step 2, use the broken record technique. This tool trains you to repeat your boundary without over-explaining or apologizing, even when people give you some pushback. Here's how it works. A weak response would be, "I'm really sorry, I don't think I can help right now." A strong response would be, "I can't help with that." And when they push back, just repeat, "I understand, but I still can't help." This works because persistence builds respect. When you stay firm and calm, it sends a clear message. My boundary is not up for debate. Step 3, set consequences. Here's something most self-help books don't tell you. A boundary without a consequence is just a suggestion, because boundaries without consequences fail 89% of the time. People just don't take them seriously. You need to be crystal clear. If you do this, here's what I'll do. This would sound like, if you continue yelling, I'll end the call. If you borrow money again without paying it back, I won't lend you money anymore. But you have to follow through. No threats, no drama, just action. And this is how you retrain people and your brain. Step 4, use the no sandwich. This technique works great in personal and professional settings when you want to soften your no while still making it stick. The formula is simple. A positive statement, then the boundary, then opting for some other kind of support. An example would be, "I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I can't take this on right now. Let me know if I can help you with something else." It's respectful and kind, but still rooted in your truth. Step 5, the filter effect. Here's what most people fear but need to hear. Healthy boundaries will offend unhealthy people. And that's a good thing, because when you start asserting boundaries, toxic people tend to leave and healthy ones will stay. You'll notice the ones who respected you will honor your new standard, but the ones who benefited from your silence, they'll guilt trip, gaslight, or even ghost you. That's the filter working, doing what it does best, because every loss is making space for a healthier connection. I have personally seen this for myself in relationships that I struggle with. Surprisingly, they left on their own because they didn't like the new conditions I laid out for them, so they walked away, making it easier for me. I also have a bonus one. Stop over-explaining. This is a trap so many people fall into, especially women and trauma survivors. We feel we have to justify our no. We overtalk, overshare, and hope they'll understand if we just say no right. But no is a complete sentence. Say it, mean it, and move on. That's it. Now we're going to talk about what happens after the boundaries are set and why some people might get angry and why that's actually a sign that you're doing things right. When you set a boundary, that's where the real work begins, because people won't always be happy for you and your newfound rules. In fact, some people will get mad, some will guilt you, and even disappear. But here's what you must understand. Resistance is a sign your boundaries are working. Manipulators, they tend to escalate when things lose control. Their anger isn't a red flag about you. It's a confirmation that your boundary is disrupting their comfort, because people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always resist the new version of you. That pushback, it's not proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof that for the first time, you're doing something right, because the brain doesn't like change, especially when it benefits someone else. When you shift from always available to I can't do that, you're disrupting a pattern in their brain. And what does the brain do when it encounters change? It resists, even when the change is healthy. So watch out, because your nervous system will try to convince you that setting a boundary isn't right. But that's not your intuition. It's trauma memory from past conditioning, especially if you've ever been punished, ignored, or abandoned for expressing your needs before. Every time you enforce a boundary, you rewire your brain, because the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making and self worth, gets stronger every time you act in alignment with your values. So every time you honor your boundary, you become more confident. You're teaching your brain that you matter, your needs matter, and your peace is not negotiable. You'll lose some people, and that's okay, because some people liked you better when you were overgiving, but that's because it was for their benefit. When you set strong boundaries, it forces them to confront the truth. You're no longer available to be used, manipulated, or guilted. And yes, it can hurt, but ask yourself this: why am I mourning the loss of someone who only liked me when I had no limits, and if it only benefited them? You'll notice that you'll start to attract better people into your life, because people with boundaries naturally attract higher quality relationships due to their self-respect. For example, people with strong boundaries report 73% higher relationship satisfaction than those who are people pleasers. Your confidence will also skyrocket, because every time you honor your boundary, your nervous system learns that you can survive discomfort and you can stand up for yourself and still be safe. That will build your emotional resilience, because people who consistently assert their boundaries experience less stress, less burnout, and higher self-esteem over time. And please know, you're not being selfish. You're being self-aware, because saying no doesn't equal being rude. Wanting peace isn't being controlling, and honoring your energy isn't being difficult. Boundaries don't make you too much. They protect you from being not enough for yourself. The people who truly value you, they'll adjust. The ones who don't, they need to go. So let them. You don't need to explain your growth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And boundaries, they are the key to unlocking your next level. Let me ask you something. How many more times are you going to let them walk all over you? How long will you keep betraying yourself just to keep the peace, while losing your mind, your energy, and your sense of worth in the process? Because if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. And if you keep avoiding boundaries to avoid losing people, you'll end up losing yourself instead. Choose yourself for once and see what happens. And if you're ready to take the next step, I made something just for you. Download my free Healing My Trauma journal. It's packed with journal prompts to help you deal with your past hurts, so you can start setting powerful boundaries and step into the life you deserve. The link is in the description, and it's completely free. And now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me what boundary you need to set right now. And remember, people don't just randomly disrespect you. They treat you exactly how you've taught them to. So let today be the day you teach them differently. Until next time, take care.